Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I'm very happy to have Christopher Saint with me in person. Hey, Chris.
Happy to be here. Hi, Jeff.
It is great to have you here. And I guess the introduction will have to start with the fact that I met you at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival in December of last year, 2024, because your film, Śokasana.
Yes.
It was an official selection. I was actually honored to get to do the Q&A for it. I know I'm not supposed to say this because we had like 60 plus films, but it's sincerely one of my favorites from the festival.
Thank you so much.
It's just I just find it to be a beautiful film, a meaningful film. I love so much about it, but we'll discuss that when we get to it.
Yeah.
But I will mention that your film took home the Programmer's Prize for Exceptional Filmmaking.
That's right.
Which might be a biased award, but what awards aren't?
All awards are.
They really are.
Yeah.
But it truly is an exceptional film. And so it's an honor. And are you still on your festival run? You're still taking
we
it
are.
around?
We actually have one coming up in a couple of weeks, Los Angeles Short Film Festival. So we'll be screening there.
Excellent. So it's not online yet, so people can't. We don't have to tell them, go watch it.
That's right.
But also the cool thing is I'm not even worried about spoilers because we can discuss that film without spoiling a thing.
Yeah.
I might share some personal why it means so much to me personally, but yeah. So people can't watch the film, but they'll hear all about it and hear about you because, all right, I'll just jump into my first question, right?
Please,
The question that will take us for the rest of this podcast. Which is, you made I guess I will say more about your film, which is I love how it feels very well thought out, and it feels like a tone poem at times. It's so visual, but then it's so human. So, to me, now you might blow me away and say it's your first film. I really doubt it's your first film because it just feels like a very well thought out, experienced work of art.
Wow. That's beautiful to hear. It is, in fact, my first film.
It's your first? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm very new to filmmaking.
You are new to filmmaking.
And this is my first piece.
This is your first piece. That, I guess, and you wrote, directed, produced.
Yeah, that's right. So it was all, very small, no budget, but just really I something that I had been grappling with, wanting to create, and I found an incredible cast, and we shot it very simply in 2 evenings. I was very surprised that it came out in a way that I was happy with, even with technical limitations, and there was some technical slight, issues that, things that I could have been better with more time or more budget, but it had the emotion that I was looking for, and that was really exciting to me. So I figured I'd throw it at some festivals and see what happens.
Brilliant. All right. Well, then we'll just go to my standard question because I'm curious where you grew up and what got you. What were you into? Were you a creative kid? Were you primarily a writer? What got you interested? Why was making a film something? It sounds like it was something you'd wanted to do for a little while at least. Yeah.
I grew up in Australia, and I've lived around the world a little, and as a kid, definitely I was a big reader. So from a young age, I was reading literature. I remember I guess at some point in elementary school, I had Act 1, Scene 1 of Romeo and Juliet memorized, and I would perform it for my siblings, and there was something about language that I've always loved. And I don't think I really conceptualized film till later, but books were always I was voracious, and then later on, I think in teenager, when I was an older teenager and young adult, I found some films that kind of blew my mind, and opened my eyes to what was possible with filmmaking, and with storytelling, I think. Films that were kind of strange or like got me, I remember Being John Malkovich, I watched that. I was like, what is this? This is incredible. This is storytelling. You know what I mean? Like it opened up a different way to see the world, I think.
I absolutely understand. I saw a film in high school called The Brother from Another Planet by John Sayles.
I don't know that one.
And it blew my mind because I'd never known, because you tend to watch Hollywood films growing up.
Blockbusters.
And there's
right.
not a lot special about it. And then you see a film that actually is a personal artistic statement by, like, Being John Malkovich is an artistic statement.
Yes.
And a collaboration, right, between Charlie Kaufman and Spike Jonze. But there's a vision there, and you're like, oh, man, film can have a vision, too.
Yes.
It's not just, fast cars zipping around.
Yeah, totally. And it can be, like, non-logical, non-linear. Like, it can be surrealist and interpretive, and it can break the rules. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that excitement of stuff that broke the rules, that was saying stuff that it wasn't saying, I one of the films I always loved, American Psycho, I think seeing that and realizing, oh, it's saying more than it's saying. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a surface level and then there's all this depth underneath that is open to interpretation, and it's got something with it,
And you were a reader, and in fiction and novels, we often get an unreliable narrator. They rarely have the guts to do it with film.
Right.
But American Psycho is one of the few films I know there's probably someone would correct me and be able to name 50 films with an unreliable narrator. But that's a film with a truly, it's a very literary film.
Totally. And it comes from
a book, yeah.
Comes from a book that, also broke the rules of storytelling, right? And so it carried that forward. And I don't know, that's always the stuff that excites me, stuff that people that are playing with language, playing with storytelling, trying to find a new way to communicate something. Because I think that a lot of my world and my career has been, more on the left brain technical side. And so I'm really attracted to things that are very right brain, like very, I don't know how to say, like non-literal.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Allegorical in a way?
I love allegory. I love people that are doing something that you feel. Like you mentioned that this film feels like a tone poem, and I love that because for me, filmmaking is about evoking emotion, not necessarily like the literal storytelling is less exciting to me than something where you watch it and you're like, I feel something. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm guilty of bringing up this analogy a lot, but I do feel that cinema is our campfire. It's our modern day campfire because humans throughout our histories told stories because at the end of our day, we'd sit and we'd share our day. We would talk around the campfire and tell stories to share our feelings and share our view of the world.
Right.
And really, I mean, every once in a while a book breaks through and becomes a little universal, but I mean, cinema is kind of what we've got for our modern day campfire of sharing. And if there's no true emotion in a film, it's gone, right? Within a week, you're not going to remember it.
Yeah, totally.
If it didn't touch you.
Totally. There's so much entertainment, right? And there's so much to consume all the time. But what are those pieces that haunt you, that really you feel it? And when you think of that piece, you feel it again. Just the memory of it, you feel what's connected to it. Do you know what I mean?
Of course. When you say, do you know what I mean? I know your film has made me weep. And, I've had some big losses, and it's a film about loss.
Yeah.
And I'm often, and I don't know, maybe you're just a very creative person. Maybe you have experienced loss too, but I often joke, like it's kind of a joke around the jury of these film festivals that, like, if you make Jeff cry, like, he's going to fight for it.
Yeah.
But also that, Wait, no, I interrupted myself with that silly. They do make fun of me for it. But I actually want to say to filmmakers, like, thank you, because, loss never leaves you.
Yeah.
And getting to weep again over someone you loved who's not here. Yeah. It actually is a really healthy release. And
healthy.
And it really it's a good feeling. It's actually not
healthy.
It's not as sad as it is comforting to weep over someone you love.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's such an interesting point. I've asked various friends for feedback on this piece, and I find that people who I suspect haven't experienced much loss don't resonate with this at all. And we're free to have spoilers here. So at the end, there's a moment where. During a moment, when the lead character is processing his grief, the supporting characters are smiling. And that was an intentional choice. But to a lot of people, that feels very strange, because for them to process grief is a negative thing. And so to see someone smiling feels eerie or malicious, right? But for me, I wanted... to process grief is a healthy human thing. And when someone you love is able to process that grief, that should be a moment of peace, joy.
No, I mean, this is exactly what your film is about. Now, should we I'm going to give you the option, instead of guiding this. Yeah. We could get back to your personal history and what got you
let's do that
point. Yeah, because then because honestly, if we get on this grief train, like, I'm not going to get off.
Okay, go.
I'm going to tell you everything.
Yeah.
So all right. So high schoolish is when you saw like Malkovich or something, and saw that that cinema was more than meets the eye.
Totally. Yep. And I always, from that point on, cinema really became my favorite art form, and I always enjoyed it. I would create little film clubs to discuss it with my friends and things like that, right? But I never engaged in that sort of creativity myself. I got into a career as a software engineer to start to make some money, and throughout the course of my life, that's been my career. So it's very, very left brain, very technical. And I also kind of, I grew up in like a small town environment where personal expression and personal creativity feels a little bit like you're drawing a lot of attention to yourself.
You're making yourself very vulnerable.
You're making it's vulnerable, right? But you're really sticking out, like you're a target, right?
You don't want to be the artistic kid in a small town.
Yeah, exactly.
It's tough.
Yeah, totally. And so there was certainly, I think, a pressure to kind of like, for a while I just went free, and then eventually I was like a little tired of being being that person. Do you know what I mean? And so I kind of went to more of I'm just going to settle down, focus on stuff that's a little more technical and, less creative. I think I became less creative, or I turned that part of myself off a little bit for quite a few years,
Correct me if this could be just pure generalization, but my understanding is Australia has a masculine culture that's
very
maybe even slightly more than here. Like the rugby and beer drinking thing. Like men are under a lot of pressure to be tough.
It's kind of a Texas culture.
Yeah, it
right?
is. It is. Like, it's almost.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting. There's a good word for it that I can't think of.
Totally. Yeah. And growing up, that was very much, the case. It's beer and football, and it's, if you're a guy, you operate it. There's a certain way to be.
Can you take a hit?
Yeah, exactly.
How much can you drink?
Right.
And if you're like, I saw this really brilliant film last week.
Right. No one wants to know about the art house film you saw. No one in my world was interested in that,
Yeah.
And so it's a little tough, But then I think, I've lived around the world as well, but then I think coming to LA, there's something special here, right? Where things that are looked down on in other places are respected here. personal creativity, a freedom in terms of just artistic expression. Those things are actually well respected in this town, right? Whereas in other places, they're kind of, you're dreaming, like get a real job. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to ask about were you traveling, like, was it for software work as an engineer? Was that travel, or was it your family moving around, or?
Growing up, my family moved around a lot, but then as soon as I kind of became an adult, I was out.
You were out of there.
I'm out. Let's go see the world, right? So I got married in Australia. Then we moved. We've lived in London for a few years before we lived here, and then I was in Japan on and off as well through my childhood growing up. So Australia and Japan. So I've kind of traveled a lot and lived in different countries several times. So.
And you ended up in LA?
Yeah, 2018.
2018. Was there a thought of the creative side yet, or
No,
So you actually came to LA still as an engineer.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So just we were like, well, let's go see what the Western Hemisphere has got going on, and LA seemed like a place where stuff was happening, and we just wanted to come see what was going on out here.
I mean, as a third generation Angelino, I certainly don't mind someone from in London saying, I'll give the States a try, but it's going to be LA.
Right. Totally. Yeah, I mean, everyone thought we were crazy, but that's not new to me. But everyone thought we were insane. Why are you moving to the States, and why are you moving to LA,
Well, but to me it makes sense because, I mean, LA must almost remind you of Australia. I'm right, because LA has such a huge Australian presence,
right?
And most of the Australians I meet who've emigrated here talk about how the weather's nearly the same and this and that. Like I feel like we're cousins or something.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, so it was great moving here, and only after being here a few years, I was like, I'm just going to, I think I recognized that I had put a part of myself on hold for a while, and I was like, okay, I'm going to let that part come back. And so I started, dressing the way I wanted to dress, and just being the person I wanted to be. And a part of that was going, why don't I try my hand at some creativity, something more artistic. I'm a fairly good and well-established software engineer. That's a very different side of the brain. And so I wanted, how do I bring to life this more creative side of my brain, right? And so my first thought was I'll try writing a script. So I wrote a feature script that probably wasn't very good, right? And then I realized as I wrote it, I'm coming up to my limits in terms of understanding cinematic language. As I'm writing the screenplay, I feel that I don't understand how it's going to come across on the screen. And so I was like, the only way I'm going to figure that out is by creating some stuff, by filming some things,
Right, that makes sense.
Right.
Absolutely.
I need a film so that I can have an idea, execute that idea, and then see if it matches what I had anticipated it to be. Does that make sense?
For sure. Yeah, you're saying that because it's not like you had the, playing with a video camera period as a teen,
right,
and seeing how shots go together and this and that and all that. Like you had ignored this side of yourself. So yeah, getting from page to screen is it's not a direct step.
Right.
Not at all.
And writing a screenplay is very different than any other form of writing,
Did you grab screenplay books and stuff, or did you just start?
I just gave it a whirl, know. And I've been
well, you'd read plays.
reading.
I know you memorized Romeo and Juliet.
Certainly I've read a lot.
Yeah.
I've definitely read a lot and read screenplays. But I hadn't done any training or actual. And so I've picked up a few books, in the last couple of years and read some stuff. But really I just started, I shot a few music videos for friends, and then I, I helped with a couple of projects that friends were working on, and just decided to try to get a feel for it, and then, this piece was my first piece where I was like, okay, I feel like I've practiced a little with the language of cinema, right? And how to communicate emotionally what I want onto the screen. I've got some gear. I bought enough gear that I could shoot some stuff by myself without having to need a budget or do some crowdfunding or anything. I've got enough that I can just do something simple, right? So what's something I can do that's really simple with, that we can just shoot no budget very, very quickly, and where I can feel pretty confident about, directing and creating. And so, this project was that project. So,
and were there several short scripts that you went through, and then Śokasana was the one that you said, this is the one that I can really see on screen?
Yeah, totally. There was, the lead, John Thomas Benson, is a friend of mine, and I talked to him. I knew I wanted to write something for him. And I interviewed him a little bit about like what his feeling was in terms of his acting, like where he wanted to go with it. And, and then I wrote a bunch of nonsense, right? I wrote an action bit and a comedy bit and tried to figure out and nothing was working. And then really, this one kind of came to me through the process of grappling with grief, and so my wife and I are foster parents. So we had a little boy that we were parents to for over a year, and then he was able to be reunited with his birth parents, which is wonderful, but also really brutal. There's no...
After a year? That's very brutal. I mean... You have obviously you're coming to it from the right place, being glad that kid would be reunited with his birth parents, but that's having a child ripped out of your home.
Yeah.
And it's inappropriate for you to continue a relationship too, right? Because that child needs to be all in with that new family unit.
Totally. Yeah.
Oh, you have my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and we've had two foster children. So twice we've had to say goodbye to our child, which is heart-wrenching. And we really had to find a way to deal with grief. And, I was contemplating on the fact that, in our society, I feel like we don't have a lot of good mechanisms for dealing with grief, or good rituals for dealing with grief, or like cultural practices, right?
We have a culture that tells you to hide from your grief.
Right.
And ignore your grief.
Totally. Yeah. Totally. And there's some grief that's allowed. So we have a funeral, right? If someone you love dies, you're allowed to cry at the funeral. But what about all the other forms of grief, right? What about, a miscarriage, or the death of a pet, or, the loss of a friendship, or a divorce, or a, broken engagement, or, all these, so there's so many forms of grief that we have to encounter, And I actually think that if you're a human in the world right now, you're grieving. You have to be, right? Because it's not just a loss. It's not just personal loss. You might not have experienced personal loss, but when you turn on the news, for me at least, I see genocide. I see parents holding dead babies and crying, and I see whole species being driven to extinction, and I see, just the collapse of the environment, the collapse of, so many, there's just so many things to grieve in the world, I think. And
I agree. And it's made worse by the idea that we were making progress in the world. And then to see, we're slipping back into, literally where we were 100 years ago.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
And, we have to carry the grief of the whole world now. Like it used to be that you only knew about your village and the grief happening in your village. Now we have to know about the grief for 8 billion people on the whole planet. It's televised to us. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, sometimes I forget to brag that we have solar panels, but like we also, where we live, Australia, United States, England, we've become more aware than ever that our basic lives are harming other humans,
right,
and other species,
right.
But like that's also a grief, like to know that our happiness has been at the expense of someone else.
Yes,
that's another one that 50 years ago we didn't really hear much about.
Right, totally, and you can't stop harming, right? Like to live in the world, you're causing harm. To every time you put gas in your tank and buy your groceries and buy your clothes and everything, there's a supply chain that causes harm, right? Like, it feels like grief is unavoidable.
If you're aware. Yes.
But I also wonder, even if you're not aware, are you just not aware of it? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
Is it there?
Do we wonder if, I like that we're both avoiding names and politics and
we
things.
Are, yes.
Which is a healthier way, I think, to look at it. But yeah, you sometimes wonder if people who appear to almost be proud of the harm they cause, is there a doubt somewhere they're not sharing with us? Right. That they are aware that maybe it's not good.
Yeah.
To do things that increase suffering.
Right.
For others.
Totally.
Because, it really is, it's a fucking lottery. It's just fucking random that we were born in nations that were exploiting for centuries.
Yeah.
And no one chose where they were born. So the idea, let alone choosing to be born wealthy. And, like some people.
Yeah.
Some people in the news who are very hard to ignore.
Right.
But that's that. All this. I guess you're talking about the heaviness of existence.
The heaviness of existence, which I feel like a lot of people are feeling right now, and which is why I feel like it's kind of the right time for this film. I'm hoping that when people see it, like my real hope is that it would kind of be an invitation to process your grief, like an invitation to find some time, find some space to just actually grieve. Because for me, I feel like I get really numb, I feel like I'm supposed to just keep living, but I don't quite know how to do that without turning my emotions off. And then I'm like, oh, how come I'm not feeling my emotions? Do you know what I mean? And let me get back to the story here.
Well, actually, what's interesting is, it was the complicated, healthy / hurtful loss of foster children.
Yeah.
And so when you went to write about loss, obviously you went with a more common form of loss.
Yes.
So it would be more universally felt.
Exactly.
But there is a child in the film.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And part of that was me trying to go, what something I can film that's going to communicate this, right?
And you had a friend whose wife was pregnant.
I had a friend whose wife was pregnant, which was a perfect setup, And, I was really cautious with them as well, the John Thomas and Estefania Benson are actors in this, and they play a couple, and she plays a pregnant character, and that is all true to life. So I was really cautious, like, are you guys sure you want to act this during your pregnancy? Do you know what I mean? Like, are you going to be okay with that emotionally? And I'm just lucky. I have great friends and great actors, and they felt that not only are they strong enough that they felt confident to be able to handle a piece like that, but from their perspective, what they communicated to me is that they felt like this was a gift they can give to the viewers, to be able to kind of carry and experience almost as they're acting it, that story of loss.
It's a wonderful example of actors being artists and thinking like artists.
Right. Yeah, totally. So that was so beautiful. I forgot where we were going, but
well, it's funny because so my many losses, but I have a very deep loss. So what's incredibly what I am so impressed with your film in many ways is actually that last shot. Well, probably not the last shot, but the shot where someone disappears.
Yeah,
because that's actually exactly how it feels.
Yeah. Totally.
Like you had a child disappear from your home.
Totally.
Like I had a friend of 45 years.
Yeah.
We lost him to COVID in the first month of COVID.
Wow.
And, you actually expect that person who you went through puberty with.
Yes.
And all that, he was supposed to be around. He was supposed to be at my 70th birthday, know? So just to have a human being removed. Yes. I just think you nailed it. I just feel like
thank you.
You gave the audience something that communicated loss so perfectly.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Like, because for me, every time I'd look at the high chair in our kitchen, I'd see our little boy smiling. And it was like
I was actually tempted to ask the age of these children. So it was high chairs. So it was babies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. So
you didn't even ever get to have a conversation.
1-year-old boy. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. So seeing his smile and his dimples is kind of this phantom in our house. You know what I mean? And so that's kind of where the structure of this film came from. I opened it with just these moments where I filmed it, where they're together. And the whole film is kind of has two time periods that intersect. So we have the memories of them together. I wanted the shots to be, warm and sweet and all those like sweet moments, right? But I chose music that felt disconcerting or maybe heavy, music that represented grief.
Actually, I was going to say that I wasn't surprised when you mentioned that you shot a few music videos for people because I find the music that you used so perfect. Like it almost has a music video feel in the very beginning.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because I did my homework. I watched it again today.
Nice.
So I was like, wow, this music. I think that's what gave me the tone poem thought.
Yeah,
was the way that played out in the beginning. Yeah, so your first section is very much like that.
Yeah, and because I was trying to find a way to create a conflict in the story within such a short time period. What I didn't want it to feel rushed. I wanted it to feel so slow and present, but I also wanted it to have a short running time. So I thought if I juxtapose music that doesn't match the visual emotionally, that will instantly create a conflict that has you wondering what's happening, what's going on, right? I'm not doing it through dialogue. I'm doing it through a music choice. And for me, that's the central conflict that I try to resolve at the end for the viewer is what's going on and why does this emotionally feel like it doesn't gel, it doesn't match, and then, so through the film, then we have kind of the lead character going through this sort of dark night of the soul where he has to, the journey is moving from the kind of numbness that comes with avoiding grief to that actual grief processing.
Yeah, because he's in denial. He's living in his memories.
Yeah.
It actually, really does have 3-act structure, right? Because and then that second act is something I absolutely adore because I am the least graceful person on earth. So anytime I see anything, I mean, I know it's a mix of yoga and dance, but it is a form of. I see it as a dance. I don't want to use the word. I have to say dance sequence, but like their movements, and not forcing him to join them. Yeah, I find that section so beautiful to see. Yeah, and I understand why I'm so moved by dance that I understand how that moves him.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I really wanted to communicate this idea that grief is stored in the body. And I actually think that to process grief requires something physical. It's not all mental. It's a physical processing that we have to do, which is why I titled this Śokasana. So the title is a word I created from 2 words. So shoka means grief, and an asana is like a pose or a posture, something that you hold physically. And so I wanted to communicate this idea that to process grief requires some kind of physical action. And I kind of wanted to touch on, basically I was thinking, what if this wasn't American culture or this culture or that culture? Like, what would a different culture look like that had some kind of cultural practice for helping people move through grief? And my idea is that these cousins have come here to help their friend move through grief by, practicing their cultural practice that I've invented here of a grief practice. And so because of that, I wanted to make it very physical. And Estefania, who plays the wife, she's a very talented dancer. So she actually helped us choreograph some of those movements. But I wanted it to have that feeling of releasing and ushering into the night, the kind of, the grief, with the incense smoke disappearing into the night as, just representing a release. And like you said, like he's not ready to join in. He's not ready to process. And I wanted it to feel uncomfortable. I wanted it to feel like they are just invading his space and he's begrudgingly allowing them. Do you know what I mean? But he's not ready to process. And so they are coming into his world, getting up in his space and just beginning this physical practice. And just through beginning the physical practice, it unlocks what he needs to unlock. And I feel like, at least for me, to actually come to that point of dealing with grief, sometimes it's like you don't want to go there. But if you allow yourself to engage in some kind, like actually take the time or engage in some kind of physical, like you're saying, okay, I'm going to just start allowing grief to process, it'll all flow. It's just trying to get through that wall. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, listening to you, I can't help but observe as a completely amateur, therapist, whatever it is, that really, in a way, with the grief, that this is a authentically personal film. Yeah. And when I hear you say that, like you wanted the grief to be you invented actually something to make grief something physical, physical, because you needed that. Yeah. Yeah. Like you personally needed. Yeah. You needed people to do this for you, and this didn't exist for you. Right. So you actually used cinema to create. Yeah. And I swear, I think to myself, boy, if I probably wouldn't work, but I would love for people to come do this for me someday. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like totally. This would be actually this is a beautiful thing. Yeah. That didn't exist. I shouldn't use hyperbole and say this is exactly what cinema should be for. Yeah. But it is to create things that don't exist that should.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I know that I'm sure people watching it aren't going to connect all these dots. And, I think as well from just hearing people that most people walk away going, I don't understand what was going on there. But I think a lot of people felt something emotionally. And to me, that's the goal of, like, even if I don't understand that, the action or what's, because I think even with processing grief, you don't really understand how you're going to do that, right? But the emotion is true. It's real. It's there. And there's something so truthful about emotion. You know what I mean? Like, emotion kind of guides us into things that we can't get to in our logical brain. And sometimes we just know what we need, and it doesn't make sense, but you just got to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't mean this to sound like a defense of the film, but I do think I'm confident you'd agree with me that one of the tests of art and cinema is how is it on repeated viewings? And I could promise you this, as someone who's seen it repeated times, who didn't make it, because you'll never have the point of view of someone who didn't make it.
Yeah,
is that if those people who said, "Oh, what was that?" If they happen to have, because we used to rewatch films a lot in the day, and we don't really do that anymore in our culture because there's too much goddamn stuff on there's just too much content. But I bet those people who, if they saw it again, knowing, it's even more powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
You know what I mean? And then they totally understand what's going on throughout, and it actually means more on repeated viewings, I think.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
Which, I mean, in the next podcast, I'll be asking for favorites and things, and like almost the definition of a favorite is what film have you watched the most times, right?
Yeah,
we revisit the things we love.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And honestly, it always bums me out that I don't. It bums me out that art and things that I love, I only see once now, except for the festival. Because the festival, I watch as a jury member. Yeah. And then if I love something, I show it to my wife. And by the way, my wife, every time I tell her there's a podcast tonight, she goes, "Oh, who is it?" And I said the title. I said, "Oh, but it's the one where the gentleman's cousins come over and they do that like yoga dance." Oh, she goes, she literally said, "Oh, the guy whose blank died."
Yeah.
I know if I'm being need to be cheeky, but she remembered it.
Yeah.
And
totally.
And then, so I saw it twice, and then I see it again in the theater. So it's so I really, one of actually the joys of being a festival runner is watching films repeated a few times.
Yeah.
Because you get so much more out of it.
That's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a lucky thing.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very lucky. What can you say?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I feel like I very rarely watch something multiple times.
We used to, right? When you were young.
You'd watch it 1,000 times.
Yeah, you'd get a VHS or a DVD.
Times. Yes.
You'd go back to the video store and it was okay to rent a film you'd already seen.
Totally.
But for some reason, we go on a streaming thing and we're...
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, there's too much.
There's too much. That's what it is.
There's too much to watch something again.
And there's so much pressure to see everything, right? Like, what do you think about, oh my God, you haven't seen that? I'm like, I'm so tired. I'm like, no. I haven't seen all the things.
No, you would have to do the Clockwork Orange thing and have your eyes pried open to...
Exactly.
I mean, people are like, have you caught up with Korean cinema? I'm like, you don't understand. That's a whole other culture. How am I supposed to incorporate that when I'm just barely keeping up with everything else?
Totally.
Yeah, it is. The repeat watching thing is something we lost, I think.
Yeah.
Except when we make ourselves do it.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there is, sometimes I'll, for films I really love, I might sit and dissect a little bit, and sit and play and pause and kind of start to really observe it. But I'm also thinking the other times I've really rewatched things is with film clubs. You know, I created like a little film viewing club with friends, and we'd go to each other's houses, and someone would present a film. You know, okay, today it's my turn, so I'm showing this film, and the reason I'm showing this, bringing it, is because of these whatever. It made me feel this. And you present it, and there's something fun about presenting a film that I guess you know very well, where you get to say, I selected this for a reason. I'm presenting it to you because it means something to me, and we're going to take some intentional time to watch this film and then discuss it. There's an intentionality that I think, the rewatch thing, I think it's about a loss of intentionality with consuming art, right? It's the same as, buying a record on vinyl instead of having it play on Spotify. There's something about the intentionality of like, I'm selecting this one. Maybe I'm putting money into it, or I'm putting time, or I'm discussing this piece of art specifically that, you'll never be able to actually consume or understand that art in a casual way.
And there's a vulnerability, right? Presenting it to people as this is my pick.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, although I admit, I would bet you're like me in a way at the festivals. I never sit there. I'd never worry if people will like the films or not at the festival. I'm like, every film, our jury, we're all united in quality first. Yeah. So I sit there. I probably am just a big enough prick to go like, well, if they don't like it, that's their.
Totally.
I know every film this festival is good. So if you don't like it, that's okay. You probably should have gone and seen some of the crap that Hollywood. Go watch a crime show on Netflix. Because this actually required some intelligence. Sorry.
Right. Yeah.
I was so snobby.
So snobby. I love it. You got to be a little snobby.
Well, yeah, right? Because we're talking about an art form.
Totally. And, I always say there's a difference. Like, entertainment is wonderful, and there's lots of entertainment, and it's super valid. I consume a lot of entertainment. But then when I want to watch a piece of art, for me, that's just a different category, right? And even film watching. Like, if I'm on a flight, I'll watch a 80s action movie. I'm not trying to... I want something to pass the time. Does that make sense? But if I'm going to sit down and, like, consume a film that's a piece of art, I want to, like, take some time to really contemplate it and, understand the vision of the director. And, yeah, I think for me, it's a totally different thing in my brain.
Yeah. All right. So you said the words vision of the director. So we'll shift back into you as creator. So you shot it, like you said, in 2 evenings, and was it was what you were after? You actually, like, the editing, did you edit too, or did you bring
I edited it as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's not easy to do, especially
It's
the first
not,
time.
and I was surprised, just with the little pieces I had worked on earlier. Things hadn't quite come together often. Often I wasn't happy with things, whatever. And so with this being my first, like, short film from beginning to end that I finished, right? I was surprised that it really felt wonderful to me all the way through. There were things I wasn't happy with. We shot so fast that I made mistakes I was shooting, so I made mistakes with the wrong shutter speed and the wrong white balance and stuff. But, none of that for me affected the quality of the emotion, the quality of the storytelling. And so, yeah, I was shocked. I shocked myself that it came out the way that I had the initial vision in my head. And to me, that was just, I was proud of that achievement, because that felt like a milestone for myself in terms of, okay, I feel like I get this now. You know what I mean? I feel now like I can create stuff from a place where I get it.
Well, and I didn't challenge you on this, but I would almost debate you of when you said that being a software engineer was fully one side of your brain, because there actually there's a lot of creativity and problem solving in that. Is there not?
Totally.
Like, in fact, writing code, I was never, I wrote stuff in BASIC and like as a kid.
Yeah.
And then some, when the web was new, I played with HTML. So there actually is a creative element, I think, to that, and having your eye on making sure that this thing works too.
Yeah.
So I actually think that you might have been better prepared.
I think a craft is different than an art in a very important way. When you're practicing a craft, there's a right? Like in software engineering, I can look at something and tell you if it's right or wrong. and it's not quite that black and white, right? But it's like, oh, that could be better. And I know that if you do this, it will be better than it was before. But with art, even though we pretend by having awards and ratings and a number of Rotten Tomatoes score or whatever, we pretend there's a right and a wrong. But really, art is 1,000% subjective. There's no right way to do it, right? Like there's rules and guidelines, but you can follow them or not follow them. Some of the best art follows them. Some of the best art doesn't follow them, right? And some of the best art, one person will hate and another person will love. And there is no objective reality to say that one's better than this one. That one is done right and that one is done wrong, right? And so that, I think that's where it felt like by starting to engage in art, that other side of my brain popped up and I had to fight, I had to compete, where this side of my brain is trying to do it, trying to make it right. And then on this other side, I'm like, there isn't a right.
Right.
What
it actually has to be what's in my heart. It has to be,
Yeah. So anyway, that's where it feels to me.
Yeah. I was just trying to make a slight argument that your other career actually probably made you a better filmmaker and editor in some ways. Just because,
I'm sure.
Because you're assembling things and
yes, totally. There's structure.
But in this case, yes, the goal was
solving.
Completely different.
Yeah.
But some of the methodology, maybe.
Yes, absolutely. Especially with editing. Editing feels much more in my world. You're problem solving, you're creating structures that flow, right? You're trying to figure out what fits. Editing feels much more like there's a right and a wrong. Even though
there's
there's so
infinite.
many ways to do it.
It's infinite.
But when you look at it, that's not right. And then tweak it a little bit. Okay, that's right now. I don't know how but you know. But with writing, I don't feel like that. With writing, it just feels like, where do I want to go? And that's what's difficult about it. Like because I'm still a practicing software engineer, so I have to find space and time to let my brain think differently. And it's very hard to do when I've come off a day of work that's so structured. To how do I find time and switch my brain into this much more unstructured way of thinking?
Right. So exactly. So it's not like you took a sabbatical for this. You were You were actively working as a software engineer during the day and then working on this at night.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a toughie.
Yeah. It's tricky. It's tricky. I had to
did
learn
you
a lot about
have
my brain.
A ritual in between, for your transition, or?
Yeah. So, I experimented with a few things. I found video games really helpful as a way to kind of go somewhere else for a little bit and then come back, and then go, okay, now I'm in a different frame of mind, but also exercise, like working out is a nice kind of separator between the two, but somehow I have to find something that's going to just pull my brain out of this place, loud music, really just loud music for a while, I have to have something that's going to invade my brain and allow me to switch modes, but it's tricky. It's tricky.
But it's excellent. And you worked it out.
Yeah.
And so you were pleased with it. Yeah. And actually, according to my notes, Sherman Oaks Film Festival was the world premiere?
Yes, that's right.
How cool. I mean, I know it's just a coincidence. It's not like you sat around going, I'm going to finish this film and Sherman Oaks will be first.
Yeah.
But that's kind of cool. It's just coincidence, but
no, I mean, really, I only really submitted this to local festivals. And I live here in the Valley, and so Sherman Oaks, I was very happy to be selected and to be a part of Sherman Oaks, and for the cast to be able to come and watch that. I don't know. This is the first time I've seen something of mine up on a big theater screen, and it's local to us, and our friends are there, and that's a really special moment. So,
I mean, look,
it's not accidental.
It's going to be special to me forever.
Yeah.
For honestly, because John Thomas Benson brought his baby up for the Q&A.
That's right.
And I was like, that little human was inside your wife in the film.
That's
and
right.
He said yes.
That's right.
And I was like, this is not happening again.
Isn't that amazing?
We'd have to. That was our 9. We'd have, probably not. It'll take another 9 years.
Yeah,
before.
totally.
I mean, what a special thing! What a special thing!
So special, and it's such an honor to create this piece as a part of their life. And the fact. I mean, I just always feel honored with anyone who would agree to work with me, an actor or anyone else who wants to bring not just their art, but you bring your essence, you bring your soul to a piece. And if I've written something and somebody says, "I like that. I'm down to work with you on that." That for me blows my mind. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, that's the most special thing.
That must have been an amazing feeling to share something you wrote with friends and say, "I plan to make this.
Yeah.
Will you join me?"
Yeah.
And I'm using the word vulnerable a lot, but can you be more vulnerable than that?
Right, exactly.
I can't imagine anything more vulnerable.
Yeah.
Besides maybe, asking out someone you're interested in.
Yeah.
That's another vulnerable
it's like
moment.
that,
But
though,
it's
isn't
like
it?
that. You're literally asking them you're asking them to work together, to create. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So Okie Benson was there, and I felt like I should have added him to the cast, because he was there in the film, and then he was able to come to the Q&A.
So cute. His name's Okie.
Yeah.
Little boy. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I would. So this is excellent. So first film. So I have no doubt now. I'm going to ask a pointless question because I know the answer. So this gave you the taste for more.
Yeah, absolutely. But also I think something I've been trying to figure out, and I don't know, maybe you have advice here, but I'm looking at the industry and I'm like, I don't know if I have the energy to try to break into the industry, Like I really enjoy this art form, and I'd love to create more art. And I'd love to have budget. That'd be nice to create something with, and to have more artists involved in creating something that's a beautiful piece of art. But I don't know that I can do the whole thing that goes with it. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not like a teenager in film school who's wide-eyed about trying to break in. I'm like, I don't need that. I just want to make art. But unfortunately, I've picked the hardest art form.
And you picked an art form where this art form meets commerce and capitalism is the most unpleasant marriage in history.
Right.
I feel it's got to be worse than every other art because it's not art to so many.
Right.
And I know this is kind of egotistical, but in a way I almost see film festivals. They're almost like the art galleries of cinema. Yeah. Like for independent art, if it's an independent festival that focuses on films like yours that are made by real people for the right what I call the right reasons. So it is almost like visiting an art gallery and seeing what's on the walls. Yeah. But in our modern era, I'm very happy that you have a gig because we have a dear friend who's a painter and waits tables at really expensive restaurants.
Right.
Because that's what you have to do to be an artist now.
Right.
You need something else.
Totally.
Because even to try to crack into Hollywood means, it's tricky because it's a level of compromise, and they're going to say, well, why do you want to make art? We're here to make money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I'm just not interested. And I know, I've been on set with a few projects and things, and I'm just like, this is like everyone's got their job, and I don't have the appetite for this, whatever all this is. Does that make sense? Like, which maybe, I don't know. But like,
it also sounds like you don't have the ego, and this is a compliment. And if someone listening, if your goal is to direct or produce one of those big ass productions with a crew of 300, and and you're so proud to look down the road and see all those trucks, and it's all there for your vision. Yeah. I get it. That's important for some people. But I mean, there's that. But at that point, it's not a personal.
Yeah, totally.
I don't know.
And there's something about this.
I was trying to say that you don't have the ego where you're like, well, what I really want is a crew of 150.
Right.
Like, I think some people have the need for that.
And I get that if this is your career, I understand like having satisfaction in achieving a level in your career that you're happy with. My problem is I've already had a very successful career, and now I'm trying to engage in creativity, and I just don't know if I have the energy to do it all again. Do you know what I mean? But
again, I also, or to do it and aim
to like
bigger?
Start from the beginning in a new career.
Yes,
and like do all the hustle that is required to like make it in a career. So for me, I guess I'm at this place where I'm trying to figure out. I want to make this art. I want to create film, but is it a career path for me, or is it like, is there a different way I can create art?
Or is it a pastime, or not pastime? What would the word be?
Yeah.
Side gig, But, well, I'm just going to say something super biased, which is I would love for you to continue your career and then, maybe plan out one of those things where you shoot every other weekend for months.
Yeah.
And then spend months, in your spare time. Like I have seen really wonderful feature films made that way.
Yeah.
Where it's maybe every weekend, maybe every other weekend, maybe one weekend a month.
Yeah.
And, you shoot 10 pages a weekend.
Totally.
And then after 10 months, you've got a 100-minute movie.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to, move into your car.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to, spend on, because, I know people who, God bless them. I mean, people will raise large amounts of money and make a film, and they'll cram it into 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's a lot harder to do, and I think a lot less rewarding. Right. Whereas the slow burn allows you to keep everything in I want to say like in a positive way. Yeah. But really, I guess I really mean like in a personal independent way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what makes your work, what makes this piece powerful, is that it was personal and meaningful to you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I was, I guess some big films are personal and meaningful.
Totally. But I think there's an obligation as soon as you get investment into something, right? There's some kind of feeling of obligation to have it succeed or do well.
Well, that's just you being an ethical person. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I could see a film. I could see a producer saying, if someone invests in a movie, they're kissing that money away. That's the attitude.
Yeah.
I've heard that attitude, of course. In my mind, I'm like, how can you say that? But it's very. But that's what that brings you in with cutthroat people you probably don't even want to be around.
Yeah. So
it's a tricky one.
I'll figure out a path that works for me.
Or you can just keep making short films and
yeah. I'd like to make a feature at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to figure out how to make that achievable and sustainable. What I think is fascinating about filmmaking is so many other art forms, you can do it on your own. You can write your own novel. You can paint your own picture. You can take a photograph. You can sit at a piano and write a song, right? But film, you can't do on your own. You need people. And the problem with trying to do what I've been doing, zero budget, very low to the ground, is that people have to invest time and people have things to do. They also got to make a living. You know what I mean? And it's tricky to bring that collaboration together without having budget. And so I think that's where it's I've chosen an art form that forces me out of my comfort zone. In my head, I want to just go make a little art piece by myself in the corner somewhere, but that's not what film is ever going to be. Film is this big collaborative medium where everyone has to bring something of themselves and of their own creativity to the table, and that's what makes it beautiful. So I'm figuring it out.
You're figuring it out, and you're continuing to show this film, and probably seeing a lot of great films, hopefully along the way.
Yeah,
I know you almost make me wonder, maybe you should look into animation or something.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
Because I wouldn't doubt that you could learn it and learn. Yeah. I don't know. I know some people who. Actually, I just recently spoke to a married couple who made this beautiful film that was at Sherman Oaks called Allure. It was about it was a beautiful film about a little astronaut and their dog.
Yeah, yes.
Was that
I
in your
did see that
blog?
one. No, but I went to quite a few of the blocks.
Yeah,
and so I saw that one.
And it was just a really just touching film. Where, the person in the spacesuit points at the moon, and the dog looks up at the moon and then lowers its head because it understands that the person they love will be going. And it's a genderless astronaut with for some reason the helmet's on even on Earth.
Yes.
But this couple actually they're highly successful animators, and they do corporate work and make. I think they even made a commercial for Coca-Cola or something, but. Then they make their own passion pieces in their spare time. Yeah. And I was aware that wow, so animators actually don't have to ask people to act for them. Right. That's and true. Don't have to pull in a camera person and this and lighting and everything. It is but boy, we get a lot of crappy animation submitted, so
totally
only the truly good stuff. And Lord knows I have yet to see an AI-related film that has any quality to it.
Oh, my goodness.
It'll happen. I'm sure someone will make something worthwhile that way.
Yeah, I know. It'll happen eventually.
So far, no.
It's interesting because I'm kind of at that intersection of tech and art. But it's just, you would think that I would be the person that would be in there. But I find it so distasteful, It's probably not good for my software and engineering career to say that I find it distasteful, but it is going to be really interesting to see what survives and what impact it has on art. Because I do think AI is going to be able to create entertaining content.
I mean, I guess I agree. I've had some friends basically say, there's just more paintbrushes. The thing is, the people who understand how to use today's brushes may not understand how to use the AI brush, but it won't be a studio executive just saying to someone, type into the computer for me, make a Tom Cruise movie, and then it just spits it out with a fake Tom Cruise that they digitized. No, it'll be an artist. Who uses AI and understands how to prompt it to make something of value. So there'll be. It's not like it'll be an inhumanly made film.
Yeah.
But we're getting really crappy, inhumanly made films right now.
Right. Totally.
But it is a complex question.
Yeah. I've thought about, I want to do something where I make an AI scene for a dream sequence. Because I feel like AI is so weird and dreamlike right now, you know? I feel like that could be interesting in like, maybe in the horror space or something. I don't know. I feel like its inhumanness could be an advantage used in the right way, right? Like,
absolutely,
it's so surrealist and weird.
I couldn't agree more.
Most AI content kind of has that Lynchian kind of feel, right? It's like something's off. I don't, you know?
Well, it is very funny that I have seen things submitted to our festivals that, you know, have a face, a talking head on screen.
Yeah.
And it takes you about half a moment to recognize, oh, what's wrong with this is AI.
Uh-huh.
And why aren't they using it? Why they're not taking advantage of the artificiality to make it an artificial dream type world.
Yeah.
They're always trying to make it realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
And already you're actually barking up the right tree.
Yeah.
By saying, okay, this looks wrong. What should something that looks wrong be used for?
Right.
And our dreams look wrong. Our dreams never look like they're like reality.
Totally.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I think it'll hit the horror space first, AI, when it finally can make something interesting. But yeah.
We'll see. I will reveal my terrible sense of humor and say, well, first it'll be porn.
Yes,
porn is first
true.
with
of
everything.
Course. Porn.
First porn, then horror.
Yes. Yeah.
Then mainstream.
Yeah. Military and porn have done more for technology growth.
I mean, they're the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
They're very much the same. Well, this is so interesting to talk to a filmmaker in your position who you're literally contemplating, like, all right, how involved do I want to pursue this? It is interesting. It's different for me because normally I just have to say, keep making. I believe in you.
Yeah.
And I do believe in you, and I do want you to keep making.
Thank you.
But I totally get your point of view of like, you know.
Yeah.
How do you want to do it?
Right.
Yeah, so it's really not whether or not you will, but it's how you go about it.
Absolutely want to keep making film, and I hope that I can make pieces that I find beautiful and that I'm proud of. And I love working with the creativity of other people, like joining our creative effort, you know. And that's something I've been enjoying about music videos as well, to find a musical artist who I'm like, I love that track. Let's shoot something. Let me try to add, like, what was your intention with that track and the lyrics? What emotionally are you trying to express? Okay, I feel like we could take the visuals in this direction or that direction to try to, like, bring my art to your art. For me, that's magic. I love it. And I love doing that with the actors or with anyone where we're working together to try to, like, what's your experience of grief, or what's your experience in this space? Like, how do we, you know, create something that's a product of all of us? So I love that. I'm not giving it up. I wanted to do a lot of that, but yeah, as far as how big the budgets will be, that's what we'll figure out.
As soon as the word budget comes in, everything changes.
Everything changes, you know? So I'm like, there's something fun about doing stuff that's no budget. And I've been pretty strictly, like, I could probably throw some money into some stuff, but I've been trying to, as much as possible, go, you know, I invested in some gear, but can we have this project have no budget? Is that possible? Because I think that there's something, it's a different level of interest and engagement with something that's no budget, right? If you crowdfund, you know, $10,000 and you shoot the thing, it's nice that people get some money, but it also just changes the project. It has to. And when you shoot at no budget, it's a different project, right? I don't know.
Well, it's a difference between pure art and art that's also commerce, right? Mm-hmm. It's the look. It's tough. It's tough because look, I think I've given up on the fantasy that some wealthy person will will see their child's film at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival and say, "This festival is wonderful. I'm just gonna. I need a tax write-off. Here's $100,000 budget for the year,
right.
And then we can show a film and talk about it for an hour.
We'll
go crazy. But yeah, I mean, even at the festival level, we have to balance out budgeting for the staff and everything,
right?
And the theater rental, and I try not to work for free.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
but the first 5 years of our 9, this is our 10th year. This will be our 10th year for both festivals, and it's the first 5, I was like, I can't take anything out because we've got to keep this thing going.
Right.
So
totally.
I was just very lucky that I was allowed that my life partner is a patron of the arts, really.
Yeah.
Because she allowed me to build these festivals.
Yeah.
In my spare time.
Totally.
But anyway,
very cool.
I was going to ask you a funny question because what you mentioned about music video, and this is really just self-serving. But were you the kind of young person who, when you would listen to music, would you direct your own music videos in your head as you listen to your favorite music?
I feel like no, I don't think I was.
Interesting.
I'm not sure that I connected much with music videos or specifically dance. So I think I'm more coming into music videos from that film perspective. Because I love scores though. Do you know what I mean? For instance, when I'm writing software, I'll be listening to modern classical music, which is almost all film scores, right? And I love seeing great fusions of visual and score. One of my favorite scores of all time was Arrival. Johan Johansson did the score for that movie, Arrival. And it works with the visuals at a different level, And so for me, coming into music videos, it's more like that. I don't feel like I have the background of all the cool stuff. Does that make sense? But it's more okay, this musical piece carries emotion. I'm almost bringing more of a cinematic approach to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you approach music video really as it's just a form of cinema.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to worry about freaking dialogue and whatnot.
I don't have to worry about dialogue.
Yeah.
Which changes the game.
How freeing is that?
So freeing. It makes it so easy. It's basically like making a short film on easy mode because you don't have to worry about the dialogue. The acting was a little inauthentic. Do you know what I mean? It's just shoot great visuals and then just slice them together.
Yeah. Yeah, and if the lip syncing gets off, whatever, you can edit your way around almost anything.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do. We have a music video category, and I mourn what happened. Well, obviously, I am a kid of the 80s.
Yeah.
So, when music video was, I think it was a genuine art form back then. And I know there are great things made today, but the only home for it, I guess, is YouTube.
That's true. Music videos aren't. Yeah, there isn't a culture of viewing music videos.
I mean, there
was
replaced
actually by TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, MTV being 24 hours of music videos.
Yeah.
There really was some artistic stuff done because they needed to draw attention and they cared and
right.
And I'm sure every once in a while the film festival gets wonderful music videos, very often animated.
Oh, cool.
And it just makes me go, man, why isn't there a...
Yeah.
And the answer is things change. I'm clinging to the past.
Totally.
But I do wish that there was a better home for the cinematic music videos.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say this. Hope no one who makes this kind of music video will hear this particular podcast, I think. And they definitely won't be listening at 1 hour 20, which is I never understood why every once in a while someone submits one of those performance ones to us, like just a band on a stage in a little club, and the camera is on a tripod, and the band performs their song, and it ends. And I'm like, film festival? You submitted that to a film festival?
Wow.
There wasn't even a cut.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's
Yeah.
not the kind of music video that'll be presented along with cinema.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Snobbery again.
There we go.
All right, Chris, is there a social media or website for people to follow you?
Yeah, you can find me at by Christopher Saint on most platforms. Yeah. And then Śokasana has a Instagram account. I forget what the handle is, but you'll find
I bet we looked it up with the festival.
Yeah, I think it's Śokasana short or something like that. Yeah. I don't know, whatever.
I got a kick out of because I don't your capital S with the hash above it. That makes it a sh sound.
Yeah.
It was interesting for me. Actually, I'm the person with the festival who deals with the ticketing site and stuff. And it was interesting which websites the HTML could handle your character and which turned it into like a bunch of numbers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Well, IMDb rejects it. It's just a regular S on IMDb because they don't allow any special characters in there. So
funny. Yeah, I forget which. It was funny. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But everywhere we could, we tried to keep it real.
Yeah,
tried to keep that whatever you call it.
Yeah,
the accent mark. Whatever.
It's an accent. Yeah, it's one of the different
yeah.
types of accents. Yeah.
Called a tilde? Maybe. Well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will get us out of here. I'll wrap it up so that we can record our next podcast, and because I'm really looking forward to hearing what your favorites are.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, first, thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you for doing it in person.
Yeah.
Nothing against the people who do this via Zoom or Google Meet, but in person is nice. So, if you're listening right now, this is the Discover Indie Film Podcast. You should be nice and like it, subscribe to it, whatever. Write a review if you want. It helps, I guess. It's nice. If you want to learn more about this podcast, go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIF Wins. If you send a message, this podcast has a producer named Karina Wolf. Karina will see it, unless it's Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky. I've given up all other forms of social media. I'm a Blue Sky only person because I love that there's no algorithm forcing stuff on me.
Yeah.
I am now saying this at the end of every podcast. I gave up all the algorithmically amplified social media platforms earlier this year.
Good.
And I've now read 3 books.
Wow.
Because it turns out, I guess the reason I wasn't reading is because I could look at the algorithms understand me too well, and they just send video after video of bunny rabbits and cows and pigs, and of course when a dog and an elk become best friends, and excuse me, like just killed tons of time.
Yeah,
my time disappears.
Yeah.
So I quit social media, and then my brain 4 days later was like, "Why don't you pick up your Kindle?"
Yeah.
So I've read a couple of great books. So anyway,
fantastic.
So if you go to @DIF Wins on Blue Sky, I'm the one who sees it. All right. So we mentioned the show. Oh, and discoverindiefilm.com is the website. Discoverindiefilm.org is the website for the nonprofit that runs the Sherman Oaks Film Festival and Film Invasion Los Angeles. Chris's film was at Sherman Oaks Film Festival. We hold that every December. Film Invasion Los Angeles is every June. And discoverindiefilm.org. Check out the nonprofit site. You know, we're trying to. I'm leaning more. I didn't talk about the nonprofit much the first 7 years, and now I'm realizing there's a lot of benefits to it. So people should know there's a nonprofit corporation for the arts running these festivals, which have links on that site. But I will go ahead and say Sherman Oaks Film Festival that hosted the world premiere of Chris's film, Śokasana.
Yeah.
You can learn about that one if you go to ShermanOaksFF.com, and it's at Sherman Oaks FF on social media. This year is the 10th anniversary. We're doing some cool stuff for that. And its sister festival that we hold every June is Film Invasion Los Angeles. That one is FilmInvasionLA.com if you want info. At Film Invasion LA on social media. We have canceled the X accounts. The X Twitter accounts are gone. They have Blue Sky again. I'm the Blue Sky guy. So if you write a comment on Blue Sky, I'll write back. But no one's on Blue Sky, actually. It's so quiet there.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm on it.
And, wonderful. And I'll add Film Invasion Los Angeles every June. And there's a team in Lima, Peru, who is going to pioneer Film Invasion Lima in January 2026. It's really happening. And I'm going to fly down and support them.
Wow.
But for years, people talked about a second, we were going to expand this. We were going to use this thing we've created and put film invasions in other towns.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it, but Lima came together.
Wow. So cool. Yeah. I met some filmmakers from Peru at the Sherman Oaks Film Festival.
That is who's going to run Film Invasion Lima.
Fantastic. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Chevy. Yeah. So anyway.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening.